I worked at Home Depot for almost 10 years. It was a good job, as I didn't mind lifting heavy things. Sometimes a jerky old man wouldn't take my advice on anything because I was a woman, but honestly, that was the hardest part of the job that I usually had to deal with. However, just a few months ago, something happened that changed my life and my career. The day started out totally normal. It wasn't too slow or too busy. And for the first few hours of my shift, everything went smoothly, until a rather large group of young men came in together all at once. They were all wearing hats and clothes covering their entire bodies, despite it being in the middle of June and their eyes were darting around. I was roaming around the store helping customers find what they needed, but I was near the front when they walked in. I watched them grab 2 bulk push carts and split into 2 groups, one heading for the appliance section and the other for the aisle where we carry spools of wire. Both of these are some of the bulkiest items we carry, but also the most valuable. A single large spool of wire can weigh as much as a full-size refrigerator. It seemed obvious to me that these young men were not the type to go out furnishing a house and laying electrical wires, so I immediately found them suspicious. I quietly made the call over the radio that I was investigating a group of suspected shoplifters, but there was no response. Management is supposed to acknowledge this, but my manager of several years had just been replaced by a new manager who wasn't as good at keeping up with things. I suspected this would be the case and made my way over to the first group of men anyway. They had rolled the push carts up to the large cable spools and were working together to take them off the shelf and stack them on the cart. Each one weighs hundreds of pounds and some of them can sell for multiple thousands of dollars. The men looked like they were struggling with the weight, indicating to me that they were not used to carrying these things and had no business loading up on 4 of them. I approached them and started asking questions, but the men wanted nothing to do with me. "Excuse me, can I help you with anything?"
No, we know what we're doing. Go bother someone else.
"What kind of electrical work are you planning with that?"
It's none of your business. Don't get in our way or you might get hurt.
"I'm sure there's something I can do to assist you."
Just go away!
When the man raised his voice at me, I took a step back and called for backup on the radio, except, "Security, be advised of a disturbance in aisle." Out of nowhere, he ran up and smacked the radio right out of my hand, then smashed it to pieces under his heel. I was shocked. That had never happened to me in all my years of working there. I knew then that these people were not messing around by any means. Before he could throw any more threats at me, I hurried back to the front of the store and tried to get into the manager's office, but the door was locked and the blinds were drawn. I banged on the door until the manager finally peeked through the blinds and waved at me to go away. I didn't want to yell and alert the entire store that we were being robbed and cause a panic, so I went over to my nearest coworker and asked to borrow their radio. I called specifically for management and security for assistance in stopping what was going on, but yet again, there was no response. That's when my coworker told me there were no loss prevention officers on duty that day, and the manager had silenced his radio to conduct an interview. At this point, I knew there wasn't going to be any help for me, but I still didn't want to just let those people walk away with tens of thousands of dollars worth of goods, because it would be my job on the line if anybody were found at fault. I opted to call the police from my own phone, but I was only halfway through telling the operator what was happening when I saw both groups of men pushing their carts full of kitchen appliances and cable spools toward the exit. I stood in front of the door to block them without help from anyone else. "Stop! The police are already on their way!" Despite what I said, they steamrolled right past me, and the first guy who smashed my radio even pushed me to the ground and kicked me in the stomach. Then he loomed over me and said something just loud enough for me to understand.
Stay down unless you want to come with us. There's a market for you too.
I zipped my lips, stayed on the ground, and watched them all leave without any other obstacle. Once they were out of the store, I started to cry silently as my coworker from earlier came to help me up and make sure I was okay. The store entered a bit of a frenzy as the customers pieced together what had happened. Finally, several minutes later, my manager finally came out of the office, and just to add insult to injury, once he learned that the store had been robbed, he found a way to blame it on me. I was in disbelief. I quit on the spot, walked out the door, and never came back. I wouldn't want to go back to working at Home Depot anyway. I have since learned that this issue with gang robberies has recently become a huge problem for stores all across the country. I wish I could have been warned about this instead of being on the front lines. Otherwise, I wouldn't have put myself in so much danger. Since I lost my job, I've been living with my mom again until I can find a new one. After this trauma, however, I don't think I can work in retail anymore. The story you just heard is not just true, but more common in recent months than you might think. As of June 2023, large-scale robberies of Home Depot stores have become an issue all across the United States. Multiple individuals, sometimes entire gangs, simply storm in, grab the most expensive things they can carry, then walk out. Anyone who stands in their way is knocked over, threatened, or beaten. The perpetrators have become increasingly violent and heavily armed. Home Depot has responded by locking up their most commonly stolen goods, but many employees worry that this will only be a minor barrier to prevent robberies. Black market sales of high-value goods stolen from Home Depot go to fund numerous criminal underworld operations, and unfortunately, employees like the one you just heard from are at the forefront of the danger, while Home Depot corporate complains of massive monetary losses.
The Home Depot parking lot was painted with murky orange hues and ominous shadows as I arrived to meet Sarah and Mark, two of my friends. I experienced a terrible sense of impending doom. I didn't realize that what had seemed like a routine trip to the Home Depot would develop into a nightmare that would follow me for the rest of my life.
Hey, Alex.
Sarah grinned as I approached them close to the door. Mark looked closely at a nearby stack of lumber. We're gonna need a few items for the renovation project. How prepared do you feel? I nodded in spite of the queasy feeling in my stomach. I'm all right. Let's wrap this up. Our footsteps echoed through the wide aisles of hardware, building supplies, and tools as we entered the store. Long, menacing shadows appeared to stretch and twist like spectral fingers as the overhead lights dimmed. It seemed like the store was concealing some evil information because of the strange atmosphere. Sarah and I followed Mark as he made his way through the labyrinth of shelves and loaded a cart with various supplies. We watched with uneasy fascination as the intimidating array of power tools darted back and forth between the tall shelves topped with paint cans. You can feel that, right? I asked in a trembling voice. Sarah quickly glanced in my direction as her terrified eyes widened.
Alex, how do you feel?
With a faint hint of annoyance, Mark turned to face us. Relax, Alex. It's just a hardware store. Nothing more. However, it wasn't just a figment of my imagination. The Home Depot's walls seemed to be trying to suffocate us. I felt a spooky presence lurking in the aisles. We moved on, trying to focus on our shopping rather than the nagging fear that was consuming us. We occasionally heard low mutterings, though. It seemed to carry a terrible resonance. Sarah tightened her hold on my arm and said,
Did you hear that?
In a low voice. I had a hard time hearing the threatening voices with my ears. Even though I knew deep down it was unusual, I still said, It's probably just the wind or something. We came around the corner and saw a worker wearing a recognizable orange apron and wearing a name tag that read Greg. His demeanor was incredibly unsettling. He was carefully arranging boxes of nails on shelves. He seemed agitated, with bloodshot eyes. I'm sorry, Mark said. We need some paint and brushes. Greg's movements were robotic and jerky as he abruptly turned to face us. He complained in a deep rumbling growl about paint and brushes.
I ask that you heed my advice.
His walk was erratic and odd as he led us further into the shop. Sarah and Mark exchanged worried looks with each other, and I could tell they were experiencing the same uneasiness I was. The whispers became more ominous and louder as we followed Greg through the dimly lit aisles. It seemed as though the Home Depot's walls were helping to keep us there. They seemed to be driven by evil intent. I muttered in a voice of fear. I don't like this, guys. I think we need to leave right now. Greg abruptly came to a stop in front of a door with the sign Employees Only. Before we could immediately leave, he turned to us while displaying no sign of humanity in his eyes. His tone was sarcastic as he said,
Your supplies are here.
Mark cautiously opened the door, revealing a room filled with paint cans, brushes, and other building materials. But as we walked in, the door slammed shut behind us, and the lights started to flicker menacingly. We started to panic when we realized we were being surrounded. Our frantic attempts to open the door met resistance. The whispers that had followed us earlier surrounded us, growing louder and more ominous as the tension in the air increased. Sarah banged on the door and yelled.
Let us out!
However, nothing happened. All that could be heard were the steadfast whispers that seemed to penetrate all the way to the very core of our beings. As we huddled close to each other in the unsettling darkness, time stood still. Every second that went by felt like the evil energy in the room was eating away at our fear. The lights went out and we found ourselves in a black void. We could hear deliberate, slow approaching footsteps through the complete darkness. Mark exclaimed in a quaking voice.
Who's there?
You're never leaving.
The gurgling reply from the inhuman voice said. Reverberating laughter, unsettling whispers, and the shuffling of unidentified entities filled the space in a cacophony. We gathered together, trembling in terror as the darkness got closer to us. I wasn't sure how much time had passed, but eventually the door squeaked open and the lights came back on. We exited the now empty Home Depot, disjointed and shaken. Nothing appeared to have happened. Greg and the ominous figure that had plagued us were completely gone, and the shelves were neatly stocked. We left the Home Depot, swearing never to go back there. However, we would be plagued by the memory of that evening for the rest of our lives. A terrible reminder that sometimes, even the most common places could serve as the stage for unspeakable horror.
My name is Ryan, and I work as an employee in the Home Depot. I've been working here for 5 years, so for some new kids or part-timers, they see me as a veteran they look up to. Although I have some life experience handling difficult customers, there is one customer that I will never forget in my entire life. That day, it all starts like usual. I help open the shop, restocking and organizing items, wipe some floors, and help around if there are any customers in need of assistance. After helping a customer, I looked at a strange woman standing in the hardware section. The woman looks skinny and has pale skin. She has a creepy face that looks as if she had lived for hundreds of years. The woman gives me the creeps, but since she's a customer, I'm obliged to assist. However, before I came to assist her, my junior Casey asked for my help. Hey Ryan, could you help me organize these lamps? The manager told me to be done before lunch. Oh? Yeah, sure, Casey. I approach Casey to help him, while the strange woman goes into the hardware section. Man, I can't believe working in Home Depot could be this tough. Yeah, I can understand that. I was just like you when I started working here. Yeah, I mean, when I came as a customer, I thought the jobs would be pretty easy. Just relax. Take your time, Casey. I'm sure you'll be just fine. Yeah, I'm sure if I worked as long as you do, I would say the same thing. Casey is a good kid. He just needs to get used to the job like everyone else. Suddenly, I had an idea, which I would regret for my whole life. You know what? Why don't you go help that lady in the hardware section? I'm sure it'll be a good lesson and experience for you. But Ryan, the manager told me to arrange these lamp boxes, or he'll... Let me take care of the situation here. Don't worry, I'll tell the manager you did this by yourself. Okay, if you say so. Casey goes to the hardware section to help the strange lady while I take care of his duty. Not even 5 minutes after he went to the hardware section, I heard Casey scream. Ah! I quickly rushed to the hardware section and found Casey lying on the ground. There is a nail stuck on his arm. I quickly approach him to check his condition. Casey, are you okay?
Ah, she stabbed me.
That's what he gets for interrupting my lunch.
I looked at the strange lady and was shocked to find her holding some nails with her mouth. When I looked closely, she's not just holding the nails in her mouth, but sucking them like a kid drinking orange juice with a straw. Ma'am, I need you to stop whatever you're doing and will ask you to kindly leave the store.
Oh, but I will pay for these nails. You see, I have told that young man that I have anemia. I need to fill up my daily dose of iron, and these nails are a quick source of it.
The strange lady continued to sucking the nails. Ma'am, if you do not comply, then I'll be forced to call the security here.
Are you trying to stop me like that young man? I warned you, it will not end well.
I decided to call the security after I brought Casey to the medic room. Suddenly, something sharp passed my cheek. Ow! What the hell? It was nails. The strange lady shoots the nails from her mouth like a blow dart. I tried to bring Casey out of there as fast as I could, but she continuously showered us with nails.
Someone help! Help! There's a crazy lady out here! Help!
Luckily, the security guards heard me. They quickly apprehended the lady and forced her to leave. The doctor said to me that Casey will be all right, as the wound, it's not too deep. However, because of today's incident, he's forced to go home early, while I volunteered to work overtime to cover his duties. At night, I was reorganizing some products in the paint section when I heard some noises in the hardware section. After what happened today, I was afraid to go there by myself. I was going to call the security guards, but I remember that one guard is patrolling outside while the other has gone to the restroom. I don't know what comes to me, but I took the biggest brush I could find and went to the hardware section. The Home Depot has been closed for a while. That is why some sections, like the hardware section, have been almost completely dark. I took my portable flashlight and pointed at the source of the noises, and my heart skipped a beat.
Looks like I've been found out. Again.
You crazy freaks! Get out of here or I'll tell the guards!
Oh? But you can't, since they are all too busy right now.
Crap, she knew the guards aren't here right now.
You know, apparently these nails are not a very good source of iron. If that's the case, then I think I need to take it directly from the source.
What do you mean? She opened her mouth and two fangs suddenly appeared, and in an instant she leapt onto me. I dodged and quickly tried to escape from the hardware section as fast as I could. When I turned my head, I saw the strange lady chasing me while opening her mouth, as if she were ready to have a meal. I tried to lose her between the sections and tried to hide in the darkness. When I found some unopened boxes, I hid myself there and waited for the lady to pass through. The strange lady looked around while grinning and licking her fangs with her tongue.
Where are you?
Apparently, she did not see me as I hid behind the boxes and walked past through from my hiding location. I tried to escape before she found me, but as I'm about to stand, the lady appeared from behind.
Found you.
Ah!
I gasped in shock and quickly tried to leave. Unfortunately, luck is not on my side today. I didn't see the shopping basket left by the customer on the floor and tripped with my face landing on the floor. I quickly woke up, not wanting to be her prey. However, just when I tried to run, the strange lady jumped onto me.
Now, give me your blood. I need it.
Ah! Get off of me, you sicko!
She tried to bite my neck like a vampire did, but I tried to block her with my hands. Realizing that she cannot bite my neck, she changed her target to my shoulder. I screamed as she pierced her fangs onto my shoulder.
Ah! You crazy woman!
I tried to remove her from my shoulder, but to no avail. She bit me hard, as if her life was clinging on it. I tried to look at something I could use and found the brush that I brought fell on the floor. I quickly reached the brush with one hand and hit her head with the brush as hard as I could, and she fell on her side. I stand and raise my hand to hit her for a second time, but I realized she already fell unconscious. One of the security guards came after he heard me screaming. He quickly apprehended the woman and tied her on a chair before calling the police. When I looked at the strange lady's mouth closely, apparently it's not vampire fangs. The woman has stuck 2 nails in her mouth to make it look like fangs. The police came and apprehended the woman. They said that the woman has a history of mental disorders and is being taken back to the mental hospital. The police also told me that she is an avid fan of horror films, especially vampire genres. Since she indeed has an anemia problem, she tried to cure herself by sucking nails, hoping to extract irons from them. However, that night she intended to get them from the real source, me, a human being. I'm still working at the Home Depot even after that day. I tried to be more careful when supervising my juniors or finding any potential troublesome customers. I don't want another incident like what happened to Casey or that strange lady. After that event, I've come to believe that vampires do exist, although not the type that is afraid of garlic or the cross.